and Spoolie bringing the fire. Tampa Bay squad taking it higher. Strikes on the ice, lightning so bold. Hedman, Kuch point, the story unfolds. We the Thunder, feel a roar. Tampa's team, we want more. From the rink to the crowd's loud sound. Coach Cooper's leading, we run this town. Drops, energy ignites, flashing bolts under arena lights. Kuch with the stick, point speed insane. Hedman locks it down, defense untamed. We the Thunder, feel a roar. Tampa's team, we want more. From the rink to the crowd's loud sound. Coach Cooper's leading, we run this town. Puck drops, energy ignites, flashing bolts under arena lights. Kuch with the stick, point speed insane. Hedman locks it down, defense untamed. We the Thunder, feel a roar. Tampa's team, we want more. From the rink to the crowd's loud sound. Coach Cooper's leading, we run this town. Shooter calls, and Scooty breaks it down. Analyzing.
Welcome to We.
That's
right, Thomas Schooley. It's the Halloween episode. I'm Shooter.
Damn, I'm good.
And we got Thomas Schooley in the house.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. And as I mentioned, we are here. Happy early Halloween. No costumes tonight, but we got some sound effects. This is We the Thunder. We are on the Coastal Sports Network. As always, if you've never tuned in before, we are some super fans talking about our favorite team. And from time to time, we get some pretty good guests on the show. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to bring on a first timer onto the show. And he is the writer for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So you've probably read some of his articles already. You might not know what he looks like, though, but let's bring him on. With that creaky door, Benjamin Pierce, welcome to We the Thunder.
Thank you very much. You said you might not know what he looks like, Halloween theme, and it doesn't get much scarier than the mug here. I was telling you, we got the face for radio going, so we'll scare your guests away right away. I appreciate that.
There you go. I mean, that goes for all of us on this show. We were
right?
meant to be one of those podcasts that's audio only, but we like to share the fun with some of our folks here on the internet. So if you're out there, give us a shout in the chat. But a lot to talk about. We are on a 3-game winning streak, so I definitely want to talk about that. We've had some changes to the teams, changes to the roster in the last week or two. But first, let's kind of talk a little bit about you. You are only in season 2 here with the Lightning. Now, did you move to Tampa? What is your background before kind of jumping into this role?
Yeah, so I moved to Tampa just in time last year, actually, for the Hurricanes, which obviously everybody told me you moved to Tampa. The one thing you don't have to worry about is getting direct hit by a hurricane because we've got this magical burial ground in the water in the bay. You're safe. And I grew up in
So it's your
Wisconsin.
fault.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody tells me around the office everything was fine until this Ben Pierce guy shows up. But yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin, working in newspapers. I grew up playing hockey. Kind of had the typical growing up in a small town, Wisconsin. Played hockey every weekend, every day after school. Did a little bit of officiating when I was younger. Went on to coach hockey when I was done, and got a degree in journalism. Was covering sports, everything from city government to junior hockey and everything in between. So a little bit of college sports in there as well. But it's the NHL was always the dream for me, and it's something that I've always continued to chase, and it's just. Tampa Bay, in a way, is kind of a little bit full circle for me. I grew up in Wisconsin, like I said, so we don't have an NHL team. Growing up, it's a crazy side-winding story, but my favorite team was actually the Edmonton Oilers, pre-Connor McDavid, I should say. So I'm not one of those guys. I wasn't one of those guys growing up, but my first NHL game in person was here in Tampa Bay. Our family actually came to Florida on a family vacation in the middle of January when it's obviously freezing cold in Wisconsin. You're looking to get away somewhere warm. But my brother and I both played hockey, both love the sport. And we came down to Tampa, caught a game here at Amalie, and just we loved it. I still, somewhere at my parents' house, we still have the free T-shirt they gave out that night, and ever since that night, my first ever favorite player was Marty St. Louis. So it took a long time, but it's a little bit of a whirlwind, a little bit of a full circle thing for me. But I couldn't be happier to be here in Tampa Bay, and just so pumped to be here. Although I'm pumped, knock on wood, that hopefully this year I didn't bring any crazy hurricanes with me. So down one season down, and it's just pumped to be here. Just really happy to be part of the Lightning family.
And there you go, Michelle Blevins in the chat. Didn't ever know what you sound like until now. Now you should be able to recognize his voice because he's in there, interviewing players, asking Coop questions. And now you can recognize that voice when you're listening.
Not only that, he's also now in the intermission report with E, with Chief. Then it's Ben, and it's also what's his name? Greg Linnelli,
Yeah.
also in the booth. Because I get to listen to it a lot, and also they do some other pregame and stuff. And I had to ask E the one time where you guys all four are at, and that there's no way you guys are in that little tiny radio booth, because I've got to be in there as a fan, as a season ticket member. Sometimes you get to go in there for a period and
Sure.
watch them call the game. And sure enough, E's like, "Yep, we're in that little little radio booth. The four of us are in there."
We squeeze in there, and Phil Esposito makes sure every time he goes by us, he makes a face or tries to get us to laugh or say something stupid. So he loves that we're all tight in there, so he can try to make us mess up. It's a tight little fit there, but we love it. It's the panel. We kind of switched it up this year. Last year it was E and Chief, and then I went after them. But the three of us have been tossing it back and forth a little bit this year, and it's been really good. So certainly. I make the joke all the time that they let the young guy into some of their secrets after being around for a while, but we're having a lot of fun with it so far.
That's I was gonna say that this year it seems like your role on the radio part has increased, and you were just saying that there, and and it seems like you guys really gel off of each other. We got the chance last season to do some of the press box, and I think we're going to try to do it again some more this year. And last year being your first season, everything we were getting told was, you guys got to meet Ben. He's a really nice guy. He's really cool. And this was from, like Jay and Eric and all them. They're like, no, he's really cool. It was your first season, and we didn't really know who you were. So it was totally, but this year hearing you on there, and it seems like your insight is really good. I tried doing some research on you, but basically you said the only research I can find about you on the internet, except for coaching. You know, it says you like coaching. Is that something you want to do here in the Tampa Bay area? Like, do you have free time?
Well, okay. See, and that's what I thought when I first moved down here was that it'd be fun to coach, and help. It's something that growing up, my youth hockey coaches were always had a really big impact on me. And my dad actually growing up worked in blacktop construction. He paved roads his entire life. So in Wisconsin, obviously in the winter, January, there are no roads because they're covered in snow. So he actually wouldn't work all winter because he was working 80, 90 hours a week during the summer to make sure all the roads were done by the time the snow and the freezing came. So he actually, when I wanted to get into hockey, he'd never skated, never played hockey. He learned how to skate, and some days even would be out there in boots without skates on so that I could learn how to skate and play hockey. So like the love of hockey and coaching, at its very beginning, it was a family thing for me. And my dad would be the first one to tell you that I wasn't probably super grateful in the moment of my dad telling me to skate faster, pump my, make sure I'm moving my legs with my hands, and I'm, make sure I got two hands on my stick, and I'm not, make sure I'm not staring at the puck the whole time. Over the years, I've learned to appreciate that advice a lot more than I did when I was 10 years old. But it really is something that I found a lot of joy doing growing up, especially during the COVID years. I was working as a newspaper reporter covering sports, and it's tough when you're watching sports and there's not fans, and you're the only person in some of those buildings, right? You're sitting in a hockey rink. It's you, it's the broadcaster, and then it's the coaches and the teams. And for a lot of those teams, especially in the junior leagues, it was kind of that question of like, are these teams going to survive? Like, are they going to make it through this pandemic without fans, without being able to have some of these revenues? And the kids were having a really hard time with it because they couldn't play youth hockey. And so getting involved with coaching, and eventually when they let the kids back out there, it was a blast. Like, you could tell how much it meant to those kids. And granted, none of them are going to go on to play Division I professional hockey, but I really loved hockey growing up. It was something that I had a lot of passion for, and just trying to share that with other people and helping other people is something that I take a lot of pride in. So we'll see here in Tampa. Let's just say that from about September through April, my calendar is pretty booked up. But I've done a little bit of stuff with Lightning Community Hockey. So when I have an off day, I'll go check that out. And it's a blast being out there with the kids, especially the ones learning how to play. You can tell they just love being out there, and I love it. So hopefully doing some more of that this year. But I would say a full-time coaching gig is probably a little tough with given my current schedule.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And yeah, pencil me in. If you do find time, assistant coach shooter. I think.
All right. Okay.
I'm thinking ahead. I told you I play hockey, and I've been playing for a while. And when I started playing, I was like the younger guy in the beer league, and now I'm kind of the older guy in the beer league. I think that's the next stage in my hockey career, is possibly coaching. But you are a true reporter, a true writer, and I would urge people. I know people don't like to read these days, but I would definitely urge them to go look at some of your work. Even just recently, you had the article about some of the new guys. Dassus, we saw him score his first NHL goal last night. What a goal!
Snipe.
Yes, that is an awesome first NHL goal. And man, this guy is an offensive defenseman, something that we've kind of been missing. And, that's not a slight towards Victor Hedman. We just expect Victor Hedman to score so many points, right? But this guy has played a lot of hockey. You wrote about he's been all over in leagues in Europe and Canada. And I'm kind of wondering, for some players, maybe that accelerates his progression. They say it takes so many games in the NHL just to, get your feet under you as a defenseman. And I guess we'll find out this season if maybe all his experience and all the different leagues he's played in is going to help his progression. And man, the Lightning could really use a guy like that to stick in the lineup. So what are your kind of early thoughts on Dassus really becoming a quick fan favorite here with that snipe and some of his offensive prowess?
Well, it's crazy. He gets his first NHL goal, and then just the way the scoreline it ends up being the game winner to boot, right? You can't draw it up better than that, especially for a defenseman. So It was a great night for him, and even just seeing like the post game press conference, there is not a chance that smile was gone by the time that plane landed back here in Tampa. Like you can tell he's here, and as motivated as he is, he's so happy to be here that you're gonna have to claw this opportunity away from this guy. And he said, like, even when he got here this summer at camp, like, I want to show that I can play at the NHL level. And I talked to Ryan McDonough last week and asked him, like, when you look at a guy like Dastu, who he hasn't played an NHL game, is it different than when you look at, say, a 20-year-old kid coming in for his first training camp who hasn't played an NHL game? Like, can you tell? And Max said immediately, like, oh yeah, like you watch the way that he goes back, even on the breakout, corralling pucks. You watch the way that he reads the play. You can tell this guy's a professional hockey player. Now, albeit the jump from some of these European leagues on bigger ice, that's a big transition sometimes. You just have less time and space. But the fact that he has the offense to go with it, like last night, and you can say what you will about plus minus being a flawed stat, Dastu led the Tampa Bay Lightning with a +3, and he's got the game-winning goal, and he's playing decent minutes. And again, all of a sudden, without Max Crozier, Dastu steps in and is probably playing more minutes than I think anybody anticipated, even when he was first recalled, because Darren Radish had a baby. Congrats to Darren Radish. Like, this guy went from, we'll see if he gets into, hey, man, we're going to need you to play some pretty significant minutes here. And by the end of last night, he's playing second power play minutes and scoring the game-winning goal. Like the competition this year between the forwards and the defense is way, way, way deeper, I think, at the start of the season than last year. And I don't think it's even close. When you look at this roster construction compared to where it was last year in October, we had guys kind of coming in and out of the lineup. But there are a couple of guys I think even now in Syracuse that you could call up today that could play in your NHL lineup that we haven't even seen yet. You know, looking at guys like Jacob Pelletier up front and obviously Declan Carlisle, right? There are guys, the depth is really impressive, and Dastu is a big piece of that. Like, and it's all credit to GM Julian Breezeball and this organization that they haven't had the draft picks, right? Because of all of these deadline trades and deals they've had to make, they've had to get creative. They've had to go out and say, we need to find guys that can play in the NHL, and we don't want to wait for it to be 3 to 4 years down the road. And they've done a really good job of it. And it's not always the big name free agent that's going to cost you $5 million a year. And I don't know if they get enough credit for that, because last night, I think my favorite tweet was, I don't know if you guys follow Jay Fresh on X, but he's a huge, huge analytics guy on Twitter. He makes all the fancy hockey cards with the percent offensive zone wins and all the crazy numbers. He tweeted last night, who the hell is Charles-Edouard Dastu? And of course, Lightning fans, as we love so much about you, we're quick to say, respect my king, respect the guy who just scored the game-winning goal. They were quick to jump in and say, respect him after he scored the goal. Like, he's a player. And Dastu said last night, I think I've proven myself to be capable at this level, and I want to keep getting better. And he thinks from game one to now, he's done that. He's been a great, great story off the ice and on the ice. And it's just another person that all of a sudden you're going to have to look at this roster. It's going to be another decision to make in, pretty short order, hopefully.
Yeah.
I was listening to the pre-show on my way to the Ducks game, and it was when he had gotten called up, and you specifically were mentioning him a lot. You and E were bouncing back and forth about him. And didn't you say he's older than you?
I do have so I have him beat by a couple of years, but I called him older, and I looked at E and I said, am I allowed to say that at 29? Because every time I say I say I'm old, the Chief and Eric obviously give me a hard time, like, give me a break.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that game was the game that Kuch got his 1,000th point. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to touch on that. But if you rewatch that play, it was Dastu who set up that play that ended up getting him. He's the one that stopped the puck, passed the puck, and ended up getting the score and getting 1,000, although he didn't get an assist or anything in it. But think of just being able to say, you were on the ice, you were on the line, you were skating, you touched that puck before Nikita Kucherov, who's sure to be a Hall of Famer one day, got his 1,000th point. and now here 2 games later he ends up getting his first NHL goal and the game winner. Like, it's just been a whirlwind for him in these 3 games.
Well, it's insane. Like, I went back to the story that I wrote at the start of the week when he first got recalled, and I'm looking at him like, this can't be right. It's 4 days ago, and he's talking about hoping to make his NHL debut and how much of a dream it would be to make his debut. 4 games later, he's got a game winner under his belt, and he's on the ice for one of the biggest moments for a player in franchise history in the regular season. And it's just like, and he said as much post game. He's like, it's this last week has been absolutely insane, and it's everything you dream of as a player. And this is a guy who was undrafted. He had 27 career AHL games coming into this season, and he won. He went to 2 different leagues in Europe the last 2 years. Was named the defenseman of the year in both of those, and that's what it took to earn an NHL contract. Like, he could have easily said, I'm just going to enjoy the life living in Europe, because, I mean, how many guys say, you know what, I'm going to go play college hockey. I'm going to spend 5-10 years living in Europe, being a pro hockey player, love the scenery and everything in Europe, and call it good. Like, tons of them. And he said, no, I'm going to find my way to the NHL. So credit to him, because he's been great. And I mean, up and down this lineup, there's so many of those stories. And you look at another guy like Dominic James.
Dominic James, that was the other thing, is someone who
Crazy.
Was the talk of everybody and everything, and Coop made, basically said after the 1 game that he was the best player on the ice. And you had all this talk. You get Chaffee sent down because they want to look more at James. And, a lot of people are saying James deserves that spot over Chaffee. And all of a sudden, there's no more talk about James, because here we are with Destu. And then you're going to have, 2 more weeks? And then the talk's going to be about Nick Paul coming back. And once Nick Paul comes back, then they're going to have that log jam. And it's going to be a whole bunch of, and you of all people know that you can't please all Lightning fans. And depending on how this team goes, depends on how your news feed goes. And there's going to be people that are not going to like the decisions the Lightning make when Paul comes back, of who they're going to have to send down, who they're going to end up benching. And, there's still those people that are really mad that Lilleberg's still on the team. And, then you get these 3-game winning streak, and all of a sudden all those things are gone. But the next time that there's some kind of meltdown, some kind of loss on a game, that here comes all this stuff up again.
Yeah.
And
not to mention, Thomas, Geeky goes down this weekend too, which, he's kind of a fan favorite, wasn't getting a ton of ice time. But you're never going to please these Lightning fans unless you keep winning games. That's the one way to
that was for Gergensen's coming back, and look what Gergensen has done since he's came back. I mean, it's just this season and this storyline for this season. Like, you couldn't write it any different, from a team that we are so used to winning to all these losses to, I mean, it's still early in the season. We had a little bit of talk beforehand, and we were talking about how crazy, worst start in the history of them. But then it was Game 7, and it's Game 8, and it's Game 9. Vasi finally wins Game 1 and Game 2, when you had Johansson already had won 2 before Vasi had even won 1 yet. So there's all that stuff, and now all of a sudden 3 straight wins, and it's no chirping at all. It's all quiet. Everything's good. Butterflies, rainbows. It's all good
for now.
Well, for now. And I think that maybe what gets lost in that too is fans focus. And listen, that's the best part I think about hockey, is the fans care so much about their teams, and it, like, you can't come out and say you dislike that a fan cares that much, that they're upset about decisions they're making. It's all part of being a diehard fan. I'm sure, years and years ago, I was probably furious about some 4th line scratch for the Edmonton Oilers when I was an 18-year-old. Like, that's growing up loving hockey, that's who it is with your favorite team. But I think one thing that gets lost in all of this, the Tampa Bay Lightning depth right now at the NHL level is tremendous to start the season. And again, knock on wood, like, no injuries going forward. But the fact that these roster decisions are so difficult to make right now is a really good thing. Like this is what you want as a general manager, as a coach. The fact that you've got to look at your bottom 6 and say, I've got 3 spots for 5 guys on my quote unquote fourth line or I've got bottom 6 spots for 9 guys that I think I can play there. That's a great problem to have. I've got 8 defensemen that could play for me at the NHL level, and I can only put 6 or 7 in tonight. That's what you want, right? And it's too bad because you're never going to have enough spots for everybody that you want to be in every night. But organizationally, it's a fantastic issue to have. And luckily, with Mitchell Chaffee, I think he has a role on this team, in this organization. His teammates love him. He brings that physicality. He's got a great shot. We've seen him on the power play already this year. He clears waivers, so he goes down to Syracuse. I would fully expect that we see Mitchell Chaffee again at some point at the NHL level this year, for sure. And the fact that you've got that option just waiting if you need it is fantastic. Like this is what they've done to give themselves options, I think is kind of lost in the puzzle of, oh, I want this guy in instead of that guy. The fact that they're making these decisions so hard is a credit to the players and a credit to the hockey ops staff, because they've made these decisions so difficult.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Dominic James a little bit, because, I mean, he kind of came into the organization out of nowhere. He was signed in late September, and he was part of the Blackhawks organization for a long time, and he must have been told by the Bolts, like, hey, you're going to get a shot to play in the NHL here. And I'm assuming that's why he came here, and he's gotten that shot. He got his debut against his old organization in the Blackhawks, and no, he hasn't scored a point. I thought, we all thought he got an assist last night, but they didn't give him the assist. But he looks the part, right? Like he looks like an NHL ready player. He's gonna score that first goal or get that first point pretty soon here. What do you know about this guy, Dominic James, who just came out of nowhere?
First off, the guy zooms, like he flies on the ice. And I think that that's an aspect that this team was looking for. And I think even in training camp, we saw him in the preseason, and obviously was a late addition to camp because he signed late, after signing as a free agent. And from his first game, his first shift, it was like, okay, this kid's got wheels. This kid is flying out here. And I think something that's so hard to remember is that jump to the NHL. Skating's a big piece of it, because if you can't keep up, if your edge work isn't good enough, the rest of your game doesn't matter all that much, because if you can't keep up, you can't make your plays. And he's got that part down pat. And like, listen, he's really turned some heads. And he had that 2-on-1 with Kuch the other night against, I believe it was Vegas, and he hits the post. Forgive me, I don't remember if it was Vegas or Anaheim, but like,
It was Vegas.
Like he keeps getting these opportunities where it's like it's only a matter of time, and for a kid to come in and do that in his first 3-4 NHL games it says a lot. And I think the other thing too is, this is a guy, last night we saw him playing with Kuch and Point, and we saw him with Hags and Cirelli for a little bit. We've seen him in the bottom 6. Like, you need those kind of guys that can play up and down your lineup, and he does that. And now he's on an entry level contract, and he said when he signed with the Lightning, a big part for picking the Lightning was, I saw an opportunity. He said he had multiple offers from different teams, and he told us that when he signed. And he said, I picked Tampa Bay because I didn't necessarily know it was going to be this quickly. I didn't know that it was going to be this season or 6 games into the year. But I knew that eventually, if I played the way I'm capable of, that there was going to be an opportunity for me to get NHL minutes. And he's done it. And that's the thing, is it's earned NHL minutes. I wasn't looking for a spot that was going to just hand me a spot right off the hop. He wanted a spot where if he played well enough, he could earn NHL minutes, and he's done nothing but that since he got here.
Yeah,
But that's confidence too, right? And that's something you want in somebody, because what player looks at this Tampa Bay Lightning lineup and says, I'm going to earn a spot in that lineup because I can earn a spot being there with Kucherov, being there with Hagel, with Braden Point, down the line. If I went if Shooter came to us and said, hey, I think I'm good enough, I'm going to sign with the Tampa Bay Lightning because I know I can make that lineup, I'd say you're out your ever-loving mind. You better start with the Solar Bears. So, like...
See, Thomas, that's why we have this sound effect for you now. Let me go back to it.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
No, the thing I love about Dominic James so far, everything, right? But also, he was bullying Mitch Marner
Yeah.
in Vegas. I was like,
That
yeah,
little reverse hit almost. Yeah.
this guy can stay. So, I mean, again, credit to the Bolts for finding these guys because, as we mentioned, the last couple years, we haven't felt that comfortable with the depth of the team. If there's an injury, they've kind of plugged guys in and given them a shot, and no one's really kind of stuck from that Syracuse team. But now I feel like we've got some guys that at any time we can pull up that when we need to because, injuries are inevitable, right, in the NHL. So it's nice to have these guys that we can kind of rely on. And of course, it's real. They've only played a less than a handful of games, right? So
Yeah,
it's
early.
Consistency. It's not easy to be an NHL defenseman for DeSuze, but man, you can ask for a better start. And these guys have been a big part of this team turning it around the last 3 games. So my question to you before we've got a game for you here, before we let you go, but is it safe to say the Bolts are back to their normal winning ways yet? Or is it a little early? Now we've got the Dallas Stars tomorrow. By the way, Halloween game. If you've never been to a Halloween game at Benchmark International Arena, this will be your first time for everyone, I guess, at Benchmark. But the team does an awesome job every year. It's one of our favorite games to go to with just the theming that they do. Thunderbug's going to have his costume on. The screens are going to look awesome. So if you can go to the game tomorrow, go to the game.
It's also Kuch's 1,000 point ceremony. So you need to make sure you get there early. I think they're going to open the doors all the same time tomorrow. They haven't officially announced it, but I think they're going to do an hour and a half in advance. And Kuch's 1,000 point ceremony on the ice before puck drop tomorrow.
Can't miss that. But so Stars coming into town tomorrow. Tough game. And then on the road, the Mammoth have been awesome. They lost to Edmonton last night. First time they lost since they introduced their mascot. They were 7-0 or now 7-1, I think, with the mascot or something like
Tusky.
that. So they're good.
I saw they're trying to ban Tusky now, 0-1 with the mascot. They want him gone.
and then we've got the Avalanche in Colorado. You've got the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas before they come back to town. Do we need to hold the brakes and see what happens on the next 4 games to really evaluate this team? Or, do we really have to wait till Thanksgiving to get the big picture of how good this team is?
Well, Thanksgiving's always the big circled one, right? Like you always say the playoff picture at American Thanksgiving is you always hear on 32 Thoughts and everything else is always mathematically pretty close to what you're going to see at the end of the year. However, if you look at the Lightning's last 3 games and compare them to the 7 games before that, it's a pretty night and day difference, I think, as far as shots on goal, making sure those shots are getting to the net and they're out shooting their opponent now. I think they're restricting a lot more of those rush chances that we were seeing at the start of the year. And John Cooper said at the start of the year too, like we're kind of at the point in the year where we're just kind of starting to weed out those bad habits, and it's going to take time, but every game we're just trying to cut out one more bad habit. And I think we are seeing that. I think they're getting better now with every game. And I really liked that game against Vegas. Vegas is a very, very good team, and they looked really good in that game. So, but again, Vegas is missing a couple of their top players, and so this road trip coming up is going to be a very good test. You're going up against a Utah team that's off to a hot start with a bunch of young players. I mean, Logan Cooley just got the bag today, right? He signs that major deal with Utah. And Vegas, you're going to get that rematch. Colorado's always a tough test with Makar and McKinnon. And you mix in this game here with Dallas at home, this is going to be a good test. And I think that the Lightning are happy with the way their game is going, but I wouldn't say they're satisfied. They know there's still steps to take. And Brandon Hagel said as much last week. Everybody was in full panic mode when we got off to that slow start. But we believe in this room we're a good team. And he did say, too, with that said, we've still got room to grow. And I think everybody in the room understands just that.
And we had talked about on this show, once these players, these stars start scoring, that, we've seen this over the years when they go in scoring droughts. Usually it's not like the whole team like it was to start this season. But, when you had Stamkos, when you had a Kucherov, when you had Hagel, all them in these scoring droughts, they tend to get into their own head. And then you see them once they break out of that scoring drought, that it sparks them. Well, you saw Hagel finally, who couldn't even get one in that net, is finally seems like he's starting to get comfortable. You see Cirelli getting in there, Kucherov's really getting in there. These guys that were missing the net and they were trying so hard because they were just looking to get that goal. So I think that's where this turnaround is going to be, because now you got some confidence in these guys that once you see them start scoring, they start getting their legs underneath them and they start going. And I think you're going to see that a lot this next trip here.
Yeah, for sure. Like Hagel, especially. I mean, he was leading the NHL in post hit. Like he just couldn't get that bounce. It wasn't even that he was playing poorly. Like he was getting chances and they just weren't going in. Brandon Hagel has 6 points in his last 3 games. Like, 3 games ago, he had 1 point through 7, and all of a sudden he's got 7 through 10. So Hags, it looks like, is starting to get some of that confidence back, and we saw what that guy can do when he's at his best last year. And Anthony Cirelli's already got 5 goals coming off a career year. So if those two can get some energy going here and provide that extra spark and some more scoring, like, look out. It's just another scare for the rest of the NHL.
Yeah, and Braden Point really hasn't been himself either as far as goal scoring yet. So I mean, we're starting to see the everything kind of tip in the Lightning's direction. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in these next 4 games, especially those 3 on the road. So we are here with Benjamin Pierce. We're going to let him go in a few, but not before we have a little bit of fun. So we play some shooter games on this show. We haven't done any this season yet, so you're going to be the first victim here.
All right.
All right, Benjamin. What we're going to do is we're going to play Ben GM. And don't think GM of an NHL team. Think GM of the actual NHL. Maybe it should be called Ben Commissioner, but we're going to go with Ben GM. So we're going to ask you 5 questions here and just get your opinion on some of these NHL topics. So we will start with the current playoff format. If you are in charge of the NHL, are you sticking with this current format that has us playing Toronto and Florida every year in the first round? Or are you going back to 1 through 9? Or do you have any other brilliant ideas you want to throw out there to the NHL? Gary listens, so.
Yeah, okay. Well, see, I think I like 1 through 8.
Yeah.
I do think that as a hockey fan, I think I would prefer the 1 through 8. However, like as a writer, tell me there's not a greater story than the wild card team upsetting the number 1 team in the NHL, right? Like, so that part of me is like, maybe not. But I do like the 1 through 8. I think, if you truly are the best team in your conference, you should get some sort of reward for that. But we'll go 1 through 8.
Yeah, we were looking at it last season, and it doesn't shake out like this every year, but last season the playoffs would have been dramatically different if they went 1 through 8.
Right.
All right. Next question is, what rule would you add, I guess, or we can put or take away in the NHL? A lot of people have been talking about like scoring a shorthanded goal, for example, and that canceling out a power play, or increasing how replay is used, because it is somewhat limited now. What would you do in the NHL?
I think that there should be a timer on video reviews. So I'm saying, like the other night we saw the offside goal that negated the Lightning goal. If we are slightly offside and then the team manages to control the puck in the offensive zone for the next 3.5 minutes and scores a goal because you can't clear the puck, I think that there should be some sort of cap over an offside play that was that close that happened 4 minutes ago. I don't know what that line would be, but I would like to see some sort of a, hey, let's make sure there's a time cap on this so that this team can't just, eat 4 minutes of a game, score a goal, and then be like, haha, just kidding. We knew that was offside the whole time. Because that's, I don't know. I'd like to see, as far as speeding up the game and everything like that, I think that would help. But I just think, too, like if you want to increase the offense, what better way than keeping goals on the board?
There you go.
Can I say about that one, though, as we've had Nigel on the show here, and I've talked to Nigel several times, that 4 minutes gives them a lot of time to be able to also go back and make sure they were
That's true.
correct on that offsides call before they call it.
That's true.
Uh,
See, that's why I'm not actually the commissioner. See, that's why right there. See, and
that
that's a
extra
good
time
point.
gives them where they can re-watch it like 6 or 7 times to make sure so that they can call that back and not get a penalty.
Yep. See, you just beat my argument right there.
There's nothing more maddening than one of these offside calls that happened like a minute and a half before the goal was scored. I was watching one last night, Philly and Pittsburgh, and I think it was overtime that they were in, and Philly scored a goal, but the guy deked right before he crossed the line, and his guy went offsides. No goal for Philly. They ended up winning it in a shootout. And speaking of last night, saw the Frozen Frenzy. Actually, Jay Retcher, I had to tune in because I saw his posts and he was like saying how he didn't like the Frozen Frenzy. He thought they dropped the ball with it. Tuesday night in October, not a lot of promotion for it was kind of the reason. So I wanted to see what he said about it. But you have the Frozen Frenzy. They've got outdoor games. Next question for you is, what would you do to grow the game of hockey? I mean, adding more technology, do you expand to more teams? Do you try to make it more of an international sport? What's the one thing you would do?
I think like it's tough, but expansion is obviously right around the corner, right? And you see what this league has done with expansion, and that's such a big undertaking that I don't think a lot of people like really understand how much of a project that is. Now, there's obviously the other side of it is how big do you want to get? I'd hate to see the NHL get to the point where you got 36, 40 teams. I definitely don't want that. But at the same time, I do think there's a couple more teams coming, and you want to grow the game of hockey. I do think throwing a team back in Quebec would be pretty fun. So I think
I was going to say, where do you see them coming? Because I think Quebec, I think Houston, and I think Atlanta. I mean, I
But
honestly
even
think
then, like they said, they keep saying Arizona too, right? They want to go. They swear up and down they want to get a team back to Arizona. So just by that math, maybe there's 4 more coming. It's hard to know, but again, like even that part of it, if expansion is coming, I think it just shows how healthy the NHL is. And as a fan of the game, you can't be upset about that part of it at all. So it's good to know
I mean,
that growth is coming. Hopefully.
if you look at this, there are so many places that sports teams. I mean, you can't tell me an NHL team wouldn't survive in a Green Bay.
Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Right. You can't tell me an NHL team wouldn't survive in like in Iowa, Montana, something where they do not have, sports teams or they only have one team. You can even explore more in Canada. I mean, I can see up to 40 teams, but it's going to be so hard. Then I think once you get to 38, 40, that you're going to end up saturating it, and there's going to be teams that you're going to end up having to move eventually and relocate them. But,
And if you get to if you get to that point too, then I'm revoking my 1 through 8 answer, and you're going to have a play-in format. If you get that many teams, you're going to have to involve more teams. But it's a good problem to have, right? If you have that many people interested in joining your league, like hockey, you look back to even like we were talking about COVID. I don't know if anybody foresaw the league being this healthy so quickly coming out of that pandemic. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
the league didn't even expect that. The league felt like they were still going to be flat for the next 4
look at the
years.
salary cap, right?
Yeah.
To me, growing hockey is, about turning the sport on to new fans, right? And it's just, and I don't know how you do it, but like get people to games that haven't been to one. I got to give Thomas and I guess myself credit for this, because when we talk to somebody that hasn't been to a game, like we give them tickets. We have them pull up their schedule. Thomas, you've done it way more than I have because you've had tickets longer, but like getting them to a game and experiencing in person. It's tough to say like, hey, it's Tuesday night. Go turn on the NHL. Every team's playing. but and compared to going to a game and being in there. So I don't know how you fix that though, NHL.
I was just working a Halloween event the other day, and someone came up to me and they're like, "Thomas, right?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then I'm like, they said, "Oh, we haven't been to a game. Her boyfriend just moved here." And I was like, "Send me a message. You guys will go to a game. I'll send you to a game." And they're like, "For real?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So they messaged me, and I was like, "Listen, what days work for you?" And they're like, "Any day except for this." I said, "Okay, let's pick a game and get you to a game." I was like, that has always been, that was the reason I started the group Thunderbolts, was always to get fans closer to the game, be able to have access more to the game. And that was part of the reason I joined this podcast, was because we get to interview people who have been part of the Lightning, people like Ben, people like E, people like Sonia, and stuff like that. And we get tons of feedback. The other day, Shooter said he got recognized for the first time the other day, and it was weird. Yeah, trust me, I know.
And again, working for the team, I think one thing that I underestimated, but when I got hired, was how much work Tampa Bay does to grow the game of hockey, specifically here in Tampa Bay. Like, you look at all of the theme nights that they do here, and obviously we just got done with Noche Latina here. That is such a big part of this community, and that's going above and beyond that just a lot of NHL teams don't do. Right, like it's something that is very Tampa rooted, and they make that effort every year to keep doing it. And it's not just, hey, let's throw a couple decorations up. It's our anthem singer is going to have roots. Our lead chef is going to make sure there's every place in the arena, every food is going to be Latina themed, have Hispanic heritage. Like it's a true organizational effort. And I think it's more than I expected in that regard. So I think it's been cool to see that.
Yeah, the team's always done a tremendous job of just presentation to everything in that arena. All right, here's something for you to fix. We're not even having one this year, but the NHL All-Star Game, we've seen them do different things the last few years, right? We had the Four Nations tournament, which was kind of in place of it last year. They remember in Vegas when they did like the special games, they were playing 21 with like they were shooting at the wall.
So dumb.
We've seen them at the beach in South Florida playing games out on the beach. I don't know if any of those are a good fix for the All-Star Game, and those are all like skills competition little games. But what do you think they can do to draw some interest? And maybe we need to blame
Going
Kuch.
back to Worlds next year, right? Isn't next year the Worlds again?
It's
like
every
the
2 years, I believe. Yeah, is going to be the Worlds. But like, I think fixing the All-Star Game is a pretty, like, it's the problem is the NHL has such a long history with the All-Star Game, and I give them credit for trying to change things, right? Like, I think if they had just been rolling out the same All-Star Game for the last 10 years, people could say, what the heck, like, this is stupid. But to their credit, they have tried new things, and not all of them have worked, but you have to give them some credit for trying, because like you look at like the NBA All-Star Game and it's unwatchable. Like a couple years ago, they're scoring 200 points. There's no defense. And it's like, what are we doing here? So my idea, I want a 3-on-3 tournament between the Eastern and Western Conference, but I want both conferences to be able to draft 2 players from the other conference with their first 2 picks.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Little twist.
Little twist. So then maybe you get to see, like, for example, you'd get to see Nikita Kucherov play some of his Tampa teammates and see Kucherov play on, say, if like Connor McDavid was the captain of the Western Conference, you maybe get to see a guy that he would never have a chance to play with, just something different. But then you still get the game aspect of it. And I think maybe even playing some of your own teammates might bring some competitive fire out of you. So that would be my idea. Something different, something new, but it's still a little bit more game action. And with a 3-on-3, maybe it's a little bit more relaxed, so you avoid the injury, hopefully of you might get it at 5-on-5.
Cool. All right, last one. Overtime. Regular season overtime. We love playoff overtime, right? But regular season overtime has gotten a little stale. I thought the first season or two, it was exciting.
It was awesome.
It still is exciting, but it's just become this whole game of possession, right? You saw it with the
Yeah.
Lightning last week. They lost the opening faceoff, didn't touch the puck, get scored on. What would you do to change regular season overtime? Or, do you like it as is, 3-on-3? It's sometimes exciting, sometimes it's boring, but
I do really like it. And this is something that as a fan, I always went back and forth on, because I used to be like, growing up, you love the shootouts because you always got to see the fun moves that you could never pull off as a kid. And then you go out on the rink for 7 hours trying to pull off the Datsuk or the crazy Nikita Kucherov no move. And you can never do it, but that's where you kind of got your inspiration for that. And then you get older and you're like, I don't know if I enjoy watching my team lose in a shootout, because it's not really hockey. And you have that little back and forth. I think the regular season overtime at 3-on-3 is fun. I would push it to I think I'd double it to 10 minutes. And I think I would go to 4-on-4. I think I want it to be a little bit more hockey. And then that way, if you get a power play, it's 4-on-3. You kind of get that more open ice. I think it
Do
could
you
be.
still do sudden death, or do you do whoever has
No,
the
I
highest score?
still sudden death, but I think because I think at 5 minutes, what happens is I think you get to 2 minutes in, and then I think the teams say, let's just push it to the shootout. And I think if you made it longer, you're going to force these teams to say, we can milk 2 minutes. It's going to be really tough to rag this puck for the next 6 minutes instead of 2. I think if you pushed overtime to a 10-minute period and made it 4-on-4, they're going to have to push, and even 3-on-3 would be fine. But I think if you push it to 10 minutes, you'd have a little bit less of that rag in the puck, because they wouldn't be able to say, hey, we've only been out here for a minute and we just have to rag this puck for 90 seconds and we're basically into the shootout.
yeah, that'd be interesting. The NHLPA is going to want to talk to you about a little bit more money for their players, though, for that extra 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I'm sure the players would be like, we play plenty of minutes already. So again, I don't have the commissioner title for a reason.
Well, I told you this would go fast. We'll let you go, but hey, thanks for jumping on with us. We'll probably see you at some point at one of these games, so make sure if you do see us, say hi. And now everyone that has only listened to Ben, or only read, I guess, because some of you haven't heard Ben's voice, now you know what he looks like, and you know what he sounds like a little bit more. His second season here with the Bolts. Hey, we're glad to have you here in Tampa, and thanks again for jumping on with us.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And with Thursday being Kuch's celebration, there is a story right now if you want to go read it. I saw there was one comment about she loves reading more than watching, and
Chubb
it
Levens,
was fun. I went back and talked to the triplets line. So I talked to Tyler Johnson and Andre Palat. We talked to Adam Oates, Kuch's skating coach, and all sorts of good stuff in there from Gensel points. And it's a long one, but it's a fun read. So Thursday should be a fun night. I think everybody's looking forward to it. So I appreciate you guys taking a couple of minutes, and hopefully we see that win streak push to 4 tomorrow night.
All right. Well, thanks again, man, and we will see you around the bench.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Right. That was Ben Pierce. Let's give him what do we got here? Halloween. Thomas, I know you just love this song. All right. So
I've been listening to that pregame show and during the intermission show, and between him, Chief, E, and Greg Linnelli, it's a lot of insight into things. So if you guys are ever riding on your way to the game, tune into the Bone 102.5. You'll hear the pregame, and it's basically them four breaking down the games and what they're talking about. And I mean, literally, they were talking about James and Dustu, and here these two come out and become Tampa Bay Lightning household names. I'm waiting tomorrow to see a Dustu, although I won't be there tomorrow, a Dustu jersey already there at the stadium tomorrow. But it is weird seeing number 51, because I'm like, it's got to be Filppula.
in 14 or no 17.
17, yeah, Killorn. He was playing against Killorn the other night, but you have James, who's got 51, who was Valtteri Filppula all those years. So it's weird seeing these people redo these jerseys of players that, you remember for the Lightning that don't get retired. You'll never see a number 91 again. You'll never see 4 and 26. You'll never see 86, 88, 77. You'll never see any of them again. But 17, I mean, Killorn, that was a fan favorite here. And then to play against Killorn in his first game, it was kind of like, ooh. Oof.
Yeah, weird, really strange. Speaking of old players, let's talk about 91. Played against him last night. Did he get a point? I don't think he did
No.
much last night. He was very unnoticeable last night. And there's been a lot of rumors about how Nashville is not very happy with him. And by the way, there's so much garbage articles on the internet these days. And that's where this topic's coming from, by the way. Do you see a world where Stamkos comes back to the Lightning this year or at any point where JBB's still here?
They would have to definitely talk out some differences. I mean, it's been widely put out there that there was some kind of rift between those two. So definitely, Serena brought up the Stamkos trade that he's being traded. He's got a no move clause, so he ain't going. There's nowhere Stamkos is going. That he doesn't want to go, and he doesn't want to go that far away from Tampa. So
house here.
Yes. So he isn't going to go too far away from Tampa. I don't see him going to the only thing I could think of is that he goes to a Stanley Cup caliber team just for one season. That's it for the rest of the season.
How upset are you going to be when he's playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs by the end of the season?
Oh, I don't see that.
I mean, for him to come back here, as you mentioned, yeah, I mean, I don't know if those two are willing to play ball together, but you're also talking about asking, you got to give up a decent amount for a guy that's only going to play a couple more years because you're going to ask Nashville to eat that salary. And that's a big ask, right? He got a really generous contract from them, and we just can't pay him that much. So everyone who's out there hoping this is going to happen at some point this season or before the trade deadline, I reset your expectations. Will he be back in a Lightning uniform to retire? 100%.
Yes.
That might be, 3 years down
the line. And listen, I plan on going to Nashville on March 21st to watch them play against the Golden Knights. So I think there's a group of us going there. So he can't be traded. Sorry. He's got to stay.
Or you'll just become a Forsberg fan.
That's right. Marchesol or something.
Yeah, March is out there too. That they had a crazy stat during the game with Marchesol on his career, how the first 150 games he had 6 points or something like that, and then the next 150 games he had 150 points or something crazy like that. That was an amazing stat. Talk about guys that slow developers like DeSuze or guys that just don't get their chance. It's another guy that's made the most. That's why I'm really feeling good about
Perbix. Yeah, Beverly said we'll go see Perbix. That's who I'm going to Nashville with for is Perbix.
That's funny. All right, so that's Stamkos, and then the only other thing I really wanted to talk about tonight. Well, I should have asked Ben about Nick Paul. I think the pictures that I saw, which I didn't know if were current, still in a red jersey in practice, which means it's non-contact. So still might be a couple weeks away. They always had said November, I thought, or was it December?
No, it was November. I think E said 2 to 3 weeks away.
So hopefully we'll see Nick Paul soon. I mean, I feel like Nick Paul brings a big boost to the middle of our lineup, which, by the way, our third line's playing awesome right now, which is what we need. And then the milestones, right? We talked about Kuch. Kuch hit his 1,000. We got the celebration tomorrow, so make sure you're there early. Doesn't happen often, but we are lucky. Hedman's on 1,000 watch. He's still got probably a couple years till he gets there because Heddy just hit 800 career points.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll end up hitting it.
Yeah, he's got a long way to go to hit that. But, with some longevity, if he's able to keep playing, I think he'll get there. And then Hagel and Cirelli both hit 300 career points. So a lot of milestones for these guys. Any thoughts on those?
I think it's huge for Hagel and Cirelli, who, never would have thought they would be, especially Hagel, getting up there. Hagel had those good years in Chicago, and then on a good line, and then comes here and is bumped down to number 2 line, number 3 line, and then plays his way all the way up to the first line or the second line. And so, I think it's good. I talked about it, that these guys are now finally starting to score, and they're starting to get these milestones. And one of the stats they said the other day with Kuch getting his 1,000th point is you're always thinking about that your next one's your 1,000th, your next one's your 300th, your next one's your 800. You got them out of the way now. Now you're not trying to shoot for a milestone. Now it's just shooting to score now. So they've got those things off their back. They've got those milestones that they made. Now they're just going to go out and shoot and not worry about those kind of milestones. I think there's still a couple more that can be made. I was trying to look them up real quick.
We'll post them before tomorrow's game. What else? 300 points for those guys. You just reminded me. I mean, if Dominic James pans out to be a true NHL player for us, how mad are Blackhawks fans going to be with and potentially James as, these budding kind of superstars in the NHL? That would be awesome. What about the frozen failure, or as Jay Retcher called it earlier? Were you able to tune in? This is actually the first time, because they started doing this last year. They did it 2 or 3 times. Every team plays. They've got the whole triple header or double header going on ESPN and whatnot. Jay's argument was like, it's October, the World Series is on, there's NBA games on, and you did a horrible job promoting it. You're not highlighting things like Stamkos coming back or playing the Bolts again, or JT Miller going back to Vancouver to play there again after what had happened. And I agree with him. He's got some points. I think they do a horrible job promoting it, and they could be a little bit more creative in the broadcast. What do you think of this frozen frenzy? Is it a failure or a frenzy?
Well, I mean, it was a failure that like you said, and Jay said, that they did not exploit those rematches. I mean, they had so many matchups set up that they really could have used it for great storylines and stuff, and they totally missed the beat. And yeah, I mean, on a Tuesday night, you've got to move it towards something else. I mean, you can't have it during school weeks. But
Saturday, right? Do a Saturday, all games all day. Started at noon. Make sure they're all on. Maybe put on ESPN2 a special channel for the day where you just go to like power play or scoring opportunity. I don't know. I'm trying to like red zone it, NFL red zone it. But they've got to figure out some way to be a little bit more creative. And it goes back to kind of what I was talking about earlier, drawing in new fans. Doing it on TV is really tough with hockey. So, I mean, if you're going to try to do crazy like things like the puck tracker and the name tracking, test out those technologies during your frozen frenzy days and see if you can get some people to stick, because a lot of people really struggle to track that puck or really see who the players are and stuff like that. So it's tough for them to kind of really get into it.
yeah, they didn't do a good job advertising it. And I think that's always a big issue with the NHL. They don't do a good job advertising any game except for when it comes to playoffs.
Yeah. By the way, we are on TNT tomorrow night
Oh yeah.
versus Stars. All right, well, that's it. That was awesome to have Benjamin Pierce on the show for the first time. If you haven't checked out any of the stuff that he's doing with the team, especially like some of the articles that he's put out there, he's doing a really great job for the team. So,
Oh, here we go. So Nick Paul, when he returns, is one point away from 200 career points. He's 3 goals away from 100 goals. Gergeson, now if you add his 2 in, he is 4 points away from 200 career points and 7 goals away from 100 career goals. So him and Paul are going to be battling to see who gets that 200 career points and 100 career goals during the same thing.
I like it. Like this competition. Who's going to get to 400 points first? Hagel and Cirelli.
Yeah.
Same thing going on with
Hagel.
Paul and well, you got the same thing going on with Paul and Jurgensen. All right, what else you got? Ready to get out of here?
Yep, let's get out. It was a good show. That we told poor Ben. We told Ben beforehand. We're like, listen, we'll only keep you on for about a half hour, and he's like, okay, that half hour is good. And then I look down there and I see we're at like 42 minutes, and we hadn't even started the game yet. I was like, oh crap, he's gonna be like, listen, these guys don't know how to tell time. Don't ever book me on this again.
Everyone, it goes by really, really fast when we go on the show, and we have a really loose agenda too. It's like we got a kind of an idea of what we're going to talk about, but no, it's always fun to get a good guest on here, especially for the first time. So hopefully he'll be.
I was gonna say, especially when it's their first time, because like Michelle said, she's never even heard his voice. And yeah, this season they've really been adding him more during the season, so it was good to see his role improving. And I had talked to him when you had stepped away before we went live, and I was like, is it weird because we had Chris Kren, as the beat writer before him for 3 seasons, who's now his boss. And I said, is it weird? And he's like, no, it's good having someone who's been there, who did it before me, so I can run things past him and ask him.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And yeah, Chris is still there too, running the whole show with media, it seems like. All right, cool. So yeah, if you can go to the game tomorrow, it's going to be a tough game against the Stars. They beat the Capitals last night, but it's the Halloween game, so it's going to be fun. A lot of Halloween stuff going on and decorations. I always like to see what Thunderbug's going to be dressed up as, and then we've got some road games coming up. So I've been trying to figure out some watch parties. So stay tuned for some watch parties. Hopefully we'll get started here in November with one. No guest as of right now for next week, but we might have someone jump on. And then I think we've got the first game versus the Panthers coming up. So we're going to have Rod Peterson come back from Cats and Bolts. Or no, not Cats and Bolts. What's his? Yeah, Cats and Bolts?
That's Cats and Bolts, yeah.
Yeah, because they cover both. So I told him at the beginning, after those preseason games, I was like, hey, be ready the week before we play the Panthers, because I definitely want to get you back on. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll have some great guests all season long. But here we are, a couple weeks after we were talking about, what is wrong?
Unofficial watch party.
Unofficial watch party. That's the only type of watch party we do. So keep an eye out for that. Hopefully, like I said, we'll have something here scheduled in November, and we got a full schedule in November. I know they're hitting the road now, but they're going to have a lot of home games coming up. So this is a good chance for them to hopefully get on top of the division and get a little bit of a lead, because as we talked about when the schedule came out in the summer, the schedule sucks for the Lightning.
Yeah. SeatGeek promo.
SeatGeek, yes. Thank you guys. SeatGeek, WTTPOD. Go buy your tickets for the Bolts or anything you want to buy tickets for. You guys have been using the code. Thank you. It is only your first time on SeatGeek. It's the only time it's going to let you use that code. But you guys have been using it, so thank you. You've pretty much covered our costs for this entire season so far. Hold on. You heard me right. Hold on. That deserves this. So you know what that means?
Nothing played.
Oh, you can't hear that?
No.
You must not be able to hear it, but I guess I guess everyone else can because they should be able to. But anyway, seriously, it did pretty much cover our costs to run this show for the entire season. You know what that means?
Now we got to clap.
Anything else is going to be some stuff that we spend to get some t-shirts, some tickets, some whatever it is. So keep using that code and we will return the favor to you guys. So
There it goes again. Is it just like randomly applauding now?
I don't know why you hear it now.
I've heard it two different. And Serena put a good point here. The Lightning did call up. How do you say his name? Saborin.
Yeah. Is he even play though, or is he just serving? He's got to serve that suspension on
It's done now. It's done. They've called him up for his 4 games. He's done his suspension now.
I feel like he deserves to get in like tomorrow's game, right?
No, the one against Florida. The one against Florida. He'll be up here against the Panthers.
True. Bring him back for that one. All right. Well, hey, we will be back next Wednesday night. Until then, enjoy some of these Bolts games. This is We the Thunder. Don't forget to be the Thunder.
That's it?